Hey everybody, it is Emily Elrod and Coach Dominique, Coach Dr. Dominique, with us today as we are continuing our series that is every Monday through Thursday through this quarantine time about surviving quarantine by spreading life. And something that we really wanted to talk to you about today is about this too shall pass. It's a common saying that said, and there's a quote about it, and it's like, in the good times, remember this too shall pass. In the bad times, remember this too shall pass. In all times, remember this too shall pass. And so, as many of us are in this space of frustration, feeling like maybe in the middle of the storm, understanding that this too shall pass. So, before we get started, I just want Coach Dr. Dominique, to briefly tell about herself.
So yes, I am Coach Dr. Dominique. I have my doctoral degree in educational leadership. I'm currently operate as an educator at a private school where I share many different titles. But I have the opportunity of being a program director for girls basketball, and then I also have the opportunity to work with, actually middle school, high school, and elementary kiddos. Let's see, I'm also a life coach. I work with transitional age youth, adults, and then also those who are, I don't like to say suffering because it's not really suffering, those who are that have mental health challenges. Let's see, I think, yeah, when it comes, I always struggle with that one, but that's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Awesome. So today, me and her, we are going to talk about some times that we didn't know if it was this too shall pass, and at times it, in essence, I would say it was in the middle of a true storm. Because the thing is that we have to give grace to people based on their perceptions. Because right now, some people have the perception that this is not a big deal, but others do. And so we have to acknowledge that too. And so, Dr. Dominique, I'm going to ask you about your time that you had a moment where it was like you felt like you were in the storm with your cancer diagnosis. So, start it from the beginning. Like, how did that even happen and all that came from that?
Okay, so this goes all the way back to, seems far away, but it's still not too far away. December 2018, we were literally 2 days away from wrapping up to get ready to send the kids off and us being able to take a break for the Christmas break. Um, I was experiencing some abdominal pains during this time. I thought it was just, regular, sorry if it's TMI, regular like menstrual cycle type pains. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of, brushed it off, just thinking like, okay, I'll just go and take a Motrin or something, and I just need to power through. It's half day. I'm ready to, take my break. But it got to the point to literally less than 10 minutes. I was like crouched over in my office, and one of my coworkers came. She asked me if I was okay, and I was like, I think I'm okay. I think it's just, menstrual cramps. So it got to the point where I couldn't walk, I couldn't get up. And so the nurse came and she wheeled me over to her office. And then shortly after being in her office, I actually started to bleed, but it was bleeding as if almost like someone stabbed me, in my stomach or somewhere. I mean, it was bad. And I'm so thankful that it did happen at school, because I'm not sure if I would have gotten the diagnosis as early as I did if I hadn't been at school. Because sometimes I'm a little selfish and just think, no, I'm not going to go to the doctor. I'm just going to do something here at the house. But
Mm-hmm.
continuing on, that day changed my life forever. I went to the emergency room. During that time, they did tests. They couldn't tell me that I officially had ovarian cancer. So I actually had to wait an additional week to follow up with the OBGYN doctor, because there was so much blood and stuff in my uterus, they couldn't really tell what was going on. So just thinking about like, okay, the something that I thought was, oh, I thought it was just cramps, to something like, okay, now you're telling me I need to follow up with a specialist. And then, so it got scary really quickly, very uncertain and unsure what was happening. Um, so I went to the OBGYN, and there it was, literally a week before Christmas. They're telling me, oh, you have, ovarian cancer. Okay. So for me, um, my life came to a halt almost, because it's like, what do you mean I have cancer? It doesn't make any sense. I'm healthy. I want to retest type of thing. But nonetheless, I was diagnosed with cancer in December 2018, stage one ovarian cancer. My case was very interesting. A lot of people think that, stage one is like, oh, it's close. You can have surgery, you can get things taken out. Well, I don't have kids of my own. So, and at the time, well, I only had one functioning ovary, and it was a cancerous ovary. So I had to make a lot of tough decisions, because here I am, someone's fiance, looking, we're getting married this year. It's like, we want to be able to have kids. I want to be able to carry my own child. So I decided to not have the ovary taken out. And so, because I decided not to have the ovary taken out, my journey was a lot different, probably a lot more challenging than what it had to be. During this time, surprisingly lost a lot of friends. I had a few family members upset with me because of the choice that I made to keep an ovary, because they told me I was being selfish. So I was in a really, really dark place, because from December to the first 3 months of my cancer, I was doing aggressive chemo. Thankfully, I didn't have to do any type of radiation. But on top of that, I've also have sickle cell. So there's a lot of health things that were going on. And there were so many times where I just felt so alone. My mom and
Mm-hmm.
dad, they live in Seattle. I'm here in Texas. And at the time, my mom was then caring for my grandma, who recently passed away this November. She also had ovarian cancer. So my mom was actually caring for my grandma at the same time, while, she finding out that her daughter also has ovarian cancer. It was something that was so hard for me to process and to understand, that I actually didn't start telling people that I had cancer until almost a month and a half after I was officially diagnosed. So here I am going through chemo. I'm tired. I started to drop weight. My hair is starting to fall out. Just trying to maintain, be as normal as possible, because I didn't want people to know, really. And for me, I'm the person that's used to always caring for others. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it didn't make any sense for me to open up and allow somebody else to care for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, just long story short, wrapping it up, just during this time, I didn't know when this was going to end, how it was going to end. Things got better, then they got progressively worse. It got to the point where I was unable to walk. Here I am in a walking brace, a mask, a cane, unable to walk. I have permanent ligament damage and all this stuff going on. So I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it was a time where people were telling me, "Oh, you got to keep the faith," and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, keep the faith, whatever." It's like, whatever that means. I'm
Mm-hmm.
literally feel like I'm dying here. Some moments it's like I thought I was gonna die, because I didn't know what was, sometimes what was going on, what was causing me to have nerve damage. You know, every month or so, them thinking that they found a new tumor somewhere. Issues with my hip bones, thinking they found cancer in my bones. So it was very hard for me in that moment to really think about this too shall pass, because I'm like, I don't know what that means. I know what it means biblically. I know what the word of God says, but I'm like, Lord, I don't know. This too may pass. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm dead and it's over and done. Like, that's just how
Mm-hmm.
I felt at that particular time. Um, so that's kind of my story in
Mm-hmm.
a nutshell.
And I
This
think the
background.
things that I gravitate towards that is, and that's similar to mine, and I'll tell mine in a minute, but about borrowing energy from people that you can during this space. So if you are in the space that you are feeling down and out and you don't know how this can pass,
Mm-hmm.
borrow energy from somebody that can. If it, we will gladly be that. That's the reason why we are doing a give back through this time, and I'll show that link later. But the importance of this is to know that you matter, and that this is a space of and this may sound a weird question, but do you have gratitude that you had cancer?
I do. A lot of people don't understand why,
Yeah.
but like you were just saying, for me, it was something almost that I felt like I had to go through, because I'm such a person who's always wanting to give back to other people, be available for other people. But I think this was something where God was like, you have to learn to allow others to be present for you. whatever that looks like. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to drop and place all pride aside, whatever that looks like. And I was in situations, and I'm so open about it now to where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't bother me, where there was times where I was walking into my medical facility and I wasn't even able to pay my copay for me to get my chemotherapy. I learned
Mm-hmm.
so much about insurance during this time. And I was just like, I need someone to lean on. I need to utilize the resources that are within my working community for people to help me that want to help me. You know, there was
Mm-hmm.
times struggling,
Amen.
trying to cook myself food in the kitchen, about to fall out, pass out. And I'm thinking, you know, God's saying, why are you doing this? There's people who said that they cook your meals 7 days a week. There's people that
Mm-hmm.
said that go and get your groceries for you if they needed to weekly. Why aren't you not, you know? So for me, it's like this, in this time period, it's almost exciting for me because it's like, oh, I get to, you know, people aren't, you know, necessarily with the, you know, COVID-19 thing, people aren't necessarily thinking, it's not as, I guess, similar to cancer, but there's people who are in different situations, and it allows me to be able to kind of put myself out there and be
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I can understand this from a financial perspective. I know
Mm-hmm.
what it's like to potentially not being able to go to work, not sure when money's going to come, how it's going to come, but it has to come, type of thing. So, but yes, I do have a lot of gratitude and thankfulness for going through that, because the way I see life is
Mm-hmm.
completely different. I'm more intentional about being in the present moment of life, not just
Mm-hmm.
going through life, but being a participant in life, as I call it. So there's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of things.
Amen. And that's similar to my story. And I didn't even think about this until somebody had brought it up the other day about how a lot of seniors are not going to be able to graduate. And it made me think about mine, in that whenever I was in college, my senior year, um, and I've openly talked about this, that I found myself pregnant out of wedlock in the South. So while teaching Bible study on top of that. So we have shame, we have sin, we have it all together. But during that time, like you said, you kind of like that month that you didn't tell anybody. So I kind of did the same thing, and I didn't tell anybody until I started showing. And luckily, I didn't start showing until I was 7 months pregnant. So literally nobody knew I was pregnant except my close family. And during that time, the feelings of like, this is not going to pass. My world, my life is over. Everything is over. And how am I even going to make it? Because I was going to go be a doctor, and I was going to go doing amazing things and all this stuff that I was going to do. But as I always say, and I tell my son this all the time, that God had to give me him so that I could be on the right path, so that I could have my husband, that I could have the family and have the life that I have now. So in this space, I didn't get to graduate. Well, I graduated, but I didn't get to walk. My contractions, my child actually came weeks early. And I believe that happened because of my shame and my guilt. And so, what we do in these spaces right now, if we don't see that this too shall pass, it can actually harbor a lot on us, and it can really hurt us. It can hurt us. I talk about cortisol, and I talk about the body responses, inflammation. I'm not going to go into all of that. But all I know is that it really can affect you. And so, what my contractions was my liver swelling, breaking my ribs. I don't know what contractions are, but I know what rib breaking is, and I know it doesn't feel good. And so, and I literally about died on mine. But all that to say is, during that time, it was a storm, and I could not see my way out of it. And I am blessed for my family and friends that stuck there with me. And then also, like I asked about gratitude, I have such gratitude for that now, because I know how it gave me the trajectory that I am now. And so I guess that's the reason why I really want to talk about this today, is that I know a lot of people are down and out right now, especially some seniors, and especially some people that talking about their work, they may be missing work, or how they're going to have financing, that we can speak it because we've lived it. Mm-hmm. This too shall pass. And it's important to know this, that, and to have people that, if you can't believe it, again, have somebody to breathe it back into you, breathe that life back into you. Vika over here put something. Also, people always want something in return after they do good for you when situations you can't at that time. So yeah, I can see that at time that it's a give and take, but sometimes you got to know how full your cup is, and that's something that we talk about a lot. I always talk about Harriet Tubman. One of my favorite things to talk about her is that she was freed as a slave, and so once she was free, she wanted to go back, and it's kind of like us, how we tell our stories and we're open about it. She wanted to go back and tell everybody about it. She went to people, but some people just were not receiving it, and they had self-identified as always being a slave. And so even though that she could give them freedom, that she could give it, it was not in their cup to be able to want. And so during these times, it's a really good time to pause and reflect. So I think that's something that if you could talk about, is the admiration of a pause. And that I joke that it feels like God has all put us to our corners right now in our rooms. So what is this pause? How can we take this as a period of preparation for something greater?
Just thinking about my year plus time as I was going through chemo and with my cancer, and even now, because I'm considered in remission, but I still have to go do checkups and do all this stuff. But that's one thing that I learned how to do. I didn't do it well. I was great at telling others how to do it, but it was almost like God was laughing at me. He's like, "How are you telling other people to pause and you don't even know how to pause?" So for me, in this time of, I call it a time of stillness or pausing, it's really a time to really figure out who you are. And when I say who you are, it's not just knowing that, you're a mom or, coworker or this, but really understanding who you are, like what makes you tick, redefining some goals that you have, really getting back in touch with, like I said, all of who you are as an individual. This is I think it's such a cool time, even more so because now jobs have to be compliant. Like you're not, some of us aren't actually going into an office, we're working at home. There just seems to be a lot more time carved into our schedules. So for me, it's like, it's a time where you can pause and then realize, in however long this is going to be, that you have the opportunity to come out as a changed individual, like with a renewed mindset about everything, with your relationships, career things, educational things that you want to do. So I'm like, it's a time where you can sit and develop plans for different things. A lot of times you're always going through like, oh, I don't have time to do this. I only have 5 minutes to do this. But now it's like, you have all of the time to do certain things. So when I think of the pause, that's what I think of, and how during the time of my cancer, and even now where I'm being forced to be more intentional with the time that I'm given right now. Because when this is over, we're right back into the hustle and bustle of things. And what I tell myself is, I don't want to leave this moment not having taken advantage of the time.
Amen. Amen. And I want to put up Maria, what she said, encourage one another always. And that's very important in this aspect too. I do want to acknowledge that. And then Anne, she said, and this is something I preach about all the time. I say preach. That's what I feel like half the time. But gratitude makes the difference. It does. None study, again, that's what I always point out, that actually there's scientific evidence that shows that it actually will help the longevity. But there's no room for negativity when you have gratitude. It's that, and it's this situation, this now. And we appreciate that you appreciate us for sharing this as well. And then Vika, she put, it takes years to find out who you are, definitely learning experience. That's a major amen. And why I want to say that is because I had things to be forced. I feel like if I didn't have the situations go the way that it did, I never would have learned per se, because it is a learning experience. And if anybody knows me, I'm real quick. And I always joke that it takes 7 years to mastery while I want to get it in 5. So it's the thing that we also have to know, that with even our kids, our children, can be bad at it at times too, because my kids they do chores. They're 5 and they're 9, and they do chores. They can cook. And people are like, slow down a little bit. So there are some things that like this that are developed in a life learning process to have that gratitude. But again, the younger that you can get this, I think the more wisdom that you can receive, the better you will be in the long run. So take this time to prep for the future, because we believe great things will come from it. So, and being that we're right at the 20-minute mark, I do just want to quickly tell y'all about what we're doing is WorkSpeed Give Back to You. Just remember, you can talk to any of our coaches for free. This is our give back, because in this space, just like us, we didn't realize that we from backwards reflecting, we see that we needed people, and that how much those people needed, or how much those people breathe life into us. So we want to do that for you. If you feel like this too shall not pass, contact us. It's free. End of April, we have all of our services, our fees are being waived. So, or if you want to reach out to Coach Dominique personally, you can go to www.workspeed.com/Coach Dominique. So I appreciate you all for coming on. Thank you for all your comments and questions, and keep it up. It was such a blessing to get to talk to you, Coach Dominique, and thank you for all that tuned in and that will watch later. Y'all have an awesome and blessed day.